Good morning and welcome to the Weekender. This is a very special kind of a Dropzone Commander episode. Joined, of course, by Dave Lewis of Dropzone Commander and my partner in crime, the man with the beardette.
Aye, Ming's coming back.
Ming is on his way back.
You're going to get back to it. What letter did we get up to at the end?
I can't remember what letter we got to. I think it was Ming the Obsceneless or something. I don't know.
I thought it was Ming the Hapless or something.
It could well have been. We will find out. But Ming is in the house. So we have captured Dave from the airport. He literally was getting off the plane. We were waiting at the airport for him with a sack. And I stuffed Dave into my giant sack and brought him here. What was that experience like, Dave?
Gen Con. Well, Gen Con or being chucked in a sack by Warren.
Gen Con was surely amazing.
Oh, Gen Con was amazing. Yeah, it was a crazy big show. I mean, there's nothing like it in the UK really for size. I mean, it's just huge. The number of people there, it's just, you know, I mean, there are halls just full of gaming tables, and it was amazing. You know, we were really busy the whole time with the new announcement and things. We always had people around the stand. It was a great experience, really good. Really enjoyed it. Very tiring. Lost my voice on the last day. Funny, you'll see a few videos of me on lying talking like this the last day. But
you're healthier now.
Yeah.
Well, guys, stay tuned to this episode. We're going to be having a look at some of the new releases of Dropzone and something that's on the horizon. But also, if you watch XLBS and join up as backstage, there's a mega prize. We have getting one lucky winner who comments on our XLBS is going to win a PHR starter army and these bad boys here. Here we have the PHR Hades, which Justin, I'm going to pass to you to throw onto camera there. We're going to show you this in more detail, and it's Poseidon Dropship, which has been lovingly magnetized. Oh God, I have to do it. I want to do it, Dave. Let go, man. I want to do it.
You do it.
So the gun is actually articulated on this. So it
that's
folds down.
That's all magnetized in.
And then you go, boom.
There you go.
How cool is that? So anyway, so if you want to be in with a chance of winning that, then you'll want to catch the episode of XLBS, which is out on Sunday. Okay, so Dave, an awesome Gen Con. You announced the 2-player starter set. We did a big unboxing of that. How did it go down?
Oh, it was great. I mean, I had a lot of people who've been waiting to play Dropzone, have been waiting for just this kind of thing. It was brilliant. We were just busy, and the response was amazingly positive. So it was great to see that after all the work we put in, because we had to keep quiet about it for months, and it's been a lot of work for all of us. So it's great to be able to finally be able to speak to people about it after such a long time in development.
Well, one of the things we've got this time, guys, we've got a little follow-up to that where we actually have the models now built up from the starter set. So we were going to hold some of them under camera for you so as you could get a look at what they were like. So starting with the Scourge, Dave, do you want to start talking us through?
Okay, so we've got the Marauder medium dropship. That one there's configured for 2 APCs, so you can fit two invaders in it.
Let's show that, because I'm
invaders
very keen to see that.
They just they just slot in. You can build the kit either way with either three little ledges or 2 ledges to hold the APCs. Mm-hmm. So there's the APCs as well. Obviously, there's detail underneath them as well. That gives you an idea of what they look like underneath. All the venting, exactly the same as the Resin, essentially. Yeah. In detail.
Yeah, but it is a nice hard plastic.
No, it's nice hard plastic. Yeah. Or just normal plastic.
The detail is absolutely stunning.
Thank you. We really pushed the boat out with this and kind of pushed it as hard as we could with the detail for what you can do in plastic. You also, in the starter set, it's been brought up before, but you actually get a spare APC because you get free sprues for each race. So you get a spare APC that you can either fill with infantry at a later stage or blow it up for an objective or scenery or whatever. It's up to you what you do with the spare one.
Have a spare one sitting in case you lose one.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is it's also an interesting piece, especially the APCs, because there's good surface area on it. It's handy for doing test pieces for your paint scheme and stuff like that.
You've got to test out paint scheme. You've got a spare one it's not needed in the army list.
Yeah.
And the army list only uses 2 of them, so that third one is just there for experimenting with, or whatever you want to do with it, really.
The Scourge, there's both varieties of Scourge tank there as well.
Yeah, we've got the Hunters, standard main grav tank, the Hunters.
Yeah, those things are light, fast, and a real pain in the ass. I'm not even going to joke. The number of times Mike has used these to take out my walkers, and I just went, but, no.
Yeah.
Now, they fit into a dropship as well.
Yeah, they do. That's a Marauder with 3 stacks in there.
Yeah.
So, again, these ones have their turrets turned, so they might not fit perfectly like this one here I'll put on top, because I've turned it that way. But they all go in there. I mean, it's totally not necessary for game terms. But
it doesn't matter if it's not necessary. It's really cool.
It's the fact that you can do it. I always design everything so that if you want to put it in the dropship, you can put it in the dropship. That's part of things, and you at least know that it will fit, even if you don't make it fit. So those are the Hunters, and then you have the Reapers as well. That's the anti-air ones. The Reapers have a fully articulated kind of posable turret, just like the Resin ones. This camera is getting used to. There we go.
See, I'm not even looking at the front screen, and there you are, all three under camera.
There you go.
So these are anti-air then. So would you use them against dropships?
Yeah,
would be the main.
Yeah, these are fantastically effective against dropships. All powerful, as in tank anti-air in the game.
Yeah,
is very powerful against dropships. Especially Scourge anti-air is very, very nasty indeed. But it has a very short range, so you have to really do your killing up close. But they are very powerful. Energy 8 anti-air, which is the most powerful anti-air in the game.
Yeah, it's sort of the balance the Scourge seem to strike is fine. Their weapons are a shorter range, but they have that big movement to sort of jet about the battlefield a bit quicker and get at you.
In many ways, they're more aggressive than the UCM ones. The UCM have to position themselves in a place where they can defend and shoot. They reaction fire a lot.
Yeah.
Whereas the Scourge never really get that luxury because they don't have much range. But you can hide, say, behind a building, and then pounce 9 inches and shoot. So you've really got an 18-inch threat bubble.
Exactly.
Which is actually only 4 inches less than the UCM get. Because they've got an 18-inch range, but they can only move 4 inches.
Yeah.
But with these guys, you can attack with that and hide better. But the UCM can react better because they have that big range for reaction fire. So
yeah, so they have the opportunity to stay in
Scourge are more active, less reactive.
Yeah, the other thing is that the Scourge anti-air and the UCM anti-air is just about powerful enough to hurt Scourge tanks. You need 6s to destroy, but they've got 3 shots apiece.
Yeah.
They also, because it's an anti-air weapon, they ignore the skimmer bonus that Scourge get by moving fast, that all skimmers get. So the UCM anti-air can scratch Scourge tanks, whereas Scourge anti-air is useless against UCM tanks.
Yeah.
The other way they work is they have the ion arc. Essentially, it's a crackly energy beam that latches onto isolated stuff. So if you've got an aircraft in the air, it's going to latch onto it.
Yes.
So it hits aircraft on a 2. It's the only thing in the game that hits aircraft on a 2 on the ground. Very, very accurate. But
not much use on the ground.
If you're shooting a ground target, you can hit a building or a phone box or a lamppost or something.
Yeah, there's too much stuff in the way instead of
so
open
you
air.
can hit on a 6 against ground targets. So even though they're energy 8, which is actually pretty good against APCs and stuff like that,
they're hard to hit.
They're hard to hit. So they're really one-trick ponies, but they're very, very good at what they do.
Yeah.
They also can hurt buildings quite well because you always hit buildings on a 2, regardless of any accuracy. So they're good. They're good enough to destroy buildings. The Hunters are better because they've got Demolisher 2, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
UCM can bombard buildings from the other end of the board, whereas the Scourge have to get close, but Demolisher 2 does double damage against buildings. So they're nice demolishers. Again, you've got to get in close to do that.
Yeah. It's worth saying at this stage, if you're watching this and you're new to Dropzone Commander, demolishing buildings and killing buildings, and more importantly, killing what's inside those buildings by demolishing the buildings, is a big and important part of the game. So it's,
well, very much.
I have seen my PHR troops the odd time taking a rather large rock to the head as the building has been knocked down.
Yeah.
Well, we also have the troops themselves on their stands. Now these have been quite interesting because this is the first kind of like CAD design troops that you've done, and it was whenever we unboxed the starter set, this was one of the things I first went and clipped out because I wanted to see how they would look on the basis. They're really sharp. You know what I like about them, Dave, is the fact that there they are 10 mil. But they're sharp to the point that it's so clear what they are. They have a clarity about them, which I think is really nice.
Yeah, it's they're CAD done. They're actually based on scans of my sculpts originally, so we had all of those scanned in digitally You still have to re-CAD because it's about how the tool is cut.
Yes.
But we based the CAD on the actual sculpts themselves.
Yeah.
So they're very close match to the sculpts. But as you say, they're more mechanical and they're more crisp than the sculpts. The sculpts are a bit more organic, and these are a bit more precise. It's a 10mm scale infantryman at the end of the day. So the differences are very slight, and you've got to put the two next to each other and look very closely to see the difference. Like the rifles are crisper on these than they are on the sculpts.
Yeah, so there are certain edges a little sharper, things like that.
Yeah, just a little sharper. You know, you can see more detail, especially on the UCM infantry rifles. You can really see the design, and the design is absolutely exactly the same between each miniature.
Yeah.
They would be because it's the same rifle. But these because the original rifles were sculpted, and every time you try and sculpt mechanical things, it's never completely consistent. Whereas when it's CAD, it is completely consistent. So, you know, it's very minor differences. These will ink slightly better.
Yes.
Because they're crisper. It's a very slight thing. You know, plastics are always going to be slightly different to metal. It's just the way it is. You know, they're you know, we're very happy with the way these have come out.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time and effort on making these to be as good as they could be.
And for the UCM, then we have the Condor, which I just think is absolutely stunning.
Condor.
I love it. It has turned out so well.
With the brand new plastic canopy and pilot as well. It was it's one of those things we really didn't have to do that at all. But it's like, you know what, we can have a plastic canopy, clear canopy on our Condor. So it's like, let's do it. Let's put a pilot in there, CAD him in.
Yeah, it's one of those extra little things that makes you go, actually, yeah, that's just really kind of cool.
Now, there's two loadout options for the Condor, just if you hold them both on the screen.
In the same way.
And again, this is these are drop ships that are everything in the Dropzone Commander range is exactly to scale. So anything that can be carried in a drop ship can actually be carried in a drop ship.
Yeah, so you've got one loaded out for your bear APCs.
So this one here will hold 2 bears. To some extent, you'll need to do a certain amount of converting, more so with the UCM than with the Scourge.
Yeah.
Because say the tanks, I'll bring a tank in early just for this. But say your tank has got an articulated turret, so if you glue that pointing up, obviously it's going to be a bit tricky to fit that underneath.
Yeah.
But you might want to just magnetise the turret off. There's various ways you can do it. As I say, it's not.
So you can magnetise the turret and.
You just magnetise the turret in and you pop it out.
Where the magnetisation points? If I wanted to have this magnetised, that I could clip it on and off to the drop ship.
Actually, if we take this here, the bear, we'll actually clip in, just mechanically, it will clip in. If we just get that in there like that.
Oh wow! So I don't even need to magnetise it then.
No, not the bear. No, all the UCM ones you don't need to because the clips will hold them because the plastic obviously has a small amount of flex involved in it. So it will flex and then it will clip in.
Yeah.
You know, again, you can actually pose the new Condor these clips. The two end sections of the clips, these two here. Yeah. They actually are separate parts, so you could glue it open. And for cinematic purposes, you know, it's not holding something. It's open and it's ready to grab something. So you can do that.
Oh, so they go like this.
I mean, when I mentioned a certain amount of converting of things, the free version rather than the one with the free clamps, the one in the middle, that's for the tanks. The middle one obviously obscures the flying base. Yes. I'll just say that because it does. You know, you could easily just drill a hole in the bottom of one of your tanks if you wanted to do it that way. But it's up to the players. I mean, magnetising is particularly popular with PHR players mainly because they all share exactly the same mount point. Actually, when I designed Dropzone, I didn't appreciate just how much people were going to be doing this whole magnetising thing. It works really, really nicely for the PHR. The Scourge don't even need it at all because they just, gravity does the work for you with the Scourge. UCM, the Condors are fairly straightforward. The Albatross, the heavy, it holds 9 in a stack. So I've seen it done. It's not easy, but I've seen it done. But in general, as I say, it's not needed for the game. It's a hobby thing, especially for dioramas and stuff. If you want to do a full Albatross, you can very easily do that for a diorama. So that gives you an idea of what you can do with these. It's true scale. So anything
for me, it's little touches like that, Dave, though, that have made the game kind of special. You know, is the fact that I talk about immersion in a game. And whenever everything's actually to scale and you can do things like that, you can immerse yourself into the game a whole lot more. It gives everything a stronger sense of reality, a stronger sense of purposefulness. It's not there as a token; it's there as a model kit. You know, a really cool
and
model
everything we do, like the buildings, I got really silly with the buildings and looked into building regs and all the right heights for commercial buildings have different floor heights to residential ones, stuff like that. Really, really went into detail because it's like that's one of those effort things that you put in up front, and once you've done it, it's correct for all the ones you make.
Yes, from then on. Yeah.
Skirt around the issue and then later on find that it doesn't fix. It's not really in scale, and that's with 10mm. To be fair, with 10mm, it is easier to do because it's a smaller scale.
Yeah.
But it's something you could easily not do because it requires a lot of time and research and things to get all those things to work properly. But
well, here we have the bear. This is the transport for the UCM. So how many men does that? That'll hold one base or 2 bases?
15 men, so 3 bases.
So 3 bases.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, when I designed the bear, I looked at a lot of existing military transports and also like what they look like inside and how cramped people were, and actually worked out. Yes, you can fit 15 guys with full kit in there. It's going to be a squeeze, but military transports aren't built for comfort.
No,
and you can get 15 guys in there without having to like have them lie down and lie on top of each other. Like you might have to with some other APCs you might have seen in other games. It's a big vehicle. I mean, this is something that I'll use this for scale purposes. One of those. We'll bring these up later, which is another thing. But we have a car here. This is just an average sized car. This gives you an idea of how big the bear actually is as a vehicle in true scale.
Yes, you're seeing something really new here, guys.
Really new there. So this is going to come up later, but the bear is that's an average sized car based on modern average sized cars. The bear is a very big vehicle. You can get 15 guys in there.
Yeah.
You know something? Actually seeing that bear in front of that car.
I think that car could drive up the back ramp quite
comfortably. But not only that bear, I originally thought it was cool. That bear, now when you see it with the car, something about it just makes it so much more cool.
It just looks like to be a monster next to the normal little road vehicle.
It is, I mean, tanks are pretty monstrous as well.
Yeah.
It's a big tank. It's basically about the same length as an M1 Abrams, but slightly wider.
Yeah.
That's the overall scale link.
Now, which tank? This is the tank with the autocannon, isn't it?
We'll get back to the starter set content. So we've
got that's the rapier.
That's the rapier. Yeah, you get 3 of those. We'll just put those.
Again, they're anti-air.
These are anti-air. The rapiers. Say they're a little bit more flexible than the Scourge ones. They can hurt Scourge tanks. They're not terrible against buildings. It's energy 7, so weaker armoured buildings, they can tear through those. As a concrete building isn't going to stand up all that well to heavy caliber chain gun fire. It's not going to last. So they're fairly good against buildings. They're good, solid anti-air, good range, very dangerous. I mean, if you're going to fly a dropship in front of a squad of 3 anti-air tanks, it's dead. 9 times out of 10, it's going to die. So you have to be really careful with where you put your dropships because anti-air will have them for breakfast. And that's always the case, especially with heavier anti-air like tanks. You get smaller anti-air in the game on scout vehicles, which are cheaper in points and faster, but they don't have the same hitting power as these ones do. They're very nasty.
And we have the other variety that sport the railgun.
Yeah, this is the Sabre. This has the ubiquitous UCM railgun, which is one of their standard weapons of choice.
Yeah.
Powerful weapon, good range, high velocity, so it's got a good countered range of 24 inches, which is very long for drop zone. The range infinite as well, because there's always 2 ranges in drop zone for people new to drop zone. Essentially, you've got range full, which is the maximum effective range of the weapon, which is a lot of the time infinite, especially for stuff like railguns. And then you've got range countered, which is the range against targets with countermeasures.
Yes.
Which is basically every vehicle in the game. Yeah. So most of the time you're looking at the range countered, but if you're shooting buildings, it's range full or men in the open. The faster the velocity of the weapon, the longer that range countered is going to be. So something slow, like a rocket.
The quicker the projectile or whatever it is can reach its target before countermeasures can take a chance to get effect in.
Exactly. So
that's very interesting.
Lasers have got an infinite range because they're just so they're like sniper weapons for
because a laser by its very nature will travel speed of light.
Exactly. So that's going to just be range infinite, range countered infinite. Scourge plasma weapons, they dissipate over a certain range. So they just have a flat range full, say 12, range countered 12.
Yeah.
So you've got to get in close. There's no sitting back and bombarding people from range with the Scourge. It's just not how they play.
Yeah.
They have to get stuck in and do their killing up close.
Yeah.
But that's part of the fun with Scourge.
And then if I remember right, these also have a articulated turret on them, so they can be measured 1 inch above the actual vehicle for where you're taking your fire point from.
Yep.
So it gives you that little bit of extra range here and there if you need it.
Yep, you can hide behind walls. You can also do sneaky things with the UCM. So you can have them in a row of 3, for example.
Yeah.
So low observability. So you can always fire through one unit in your own squad. So these 3 are in the same squad. So this one can shoot because it's at the front. This one can shoot because it can fire through one unit in its own squad. The one at the back can shoot because it can use its articulated turret and fire over the front too. The enemy can only see the front one. Sneaky tactic.
Yeah.
Scourge, of course, will just go round and get them from the side with their speed.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's a useful little tactic.
Yeah, well,
with
they
the
have
UCM.
to get there, and by doing that, you're forcing your opponent to have to do that.
Having said that, the one at the back, actually, I made a small error there. The one at the back can be seen, because the downside of using that articulated rule is the enemy
it's
can
essentially
shoot.
poking the head up above the parapet.
The enemy can shoot back at you, but you're hull down, which means it's +2 to hit. So that's not so good for the enemy. So yes, you can be seen, but you can be seen badly.
Yes.
So it's a good tactic to use with UCM articulated weapons. And it's just a nice thing.
And then finally, we have the UCM troops here.
Yeah, here's the Legionnaires. The Legionnaires work differently from the Scourge Warriors. The Scourge Warriors all have plasma rifles, which are good anti-infantry weapons, slightly better than the UCM standard issue machine guns.
Yeah.
But also they can pull their fire to hit vehicles. Essentially, the whole squad of guys shoot at the tank. If 3 or more hit the tank, then it's a high-powered shot.
This is the UCM can do this?
This is the Scourge.
Oh, the Scourge can do that.
The UCM, they're a bit more flexible. So they have one guy with a rocket launcher. He can shoot tanks, and the guys with the machine guns can shoot something else.
Yeah.
So they can also do...
So they can split fire?
Because they're 2 separate weapons, so they can shoot at 2 separate targets, because... Yeah, in the real world, you wouldn't get the rocket launcher guy. Wouldn't have to shoot at the men. He'd shoot at a tank over there, and
I don't know. I've seen a few memes online where there's a guy pointing a rocket launcher at another guy right next to him. This does not seem like a good plan.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're not going to use the rocket launcher on men unless you've got no other targets. You're going to shoot vehicles or buildings with them.
Yeah, or if the men are inside a building, you're looking to put a frag or something into the actual room itself.
Yeah.
But it isn't going to stop the other guys from shooting other things. They can also, the Scourge guys can do this as well. They can do small arms, which is an anti-air shot, admittedly with just a 6-inch range. But that's quite nice when they're in a building.
Yeah.
Because you can just wall off a nice 6-inch area around that building, which is like come near, and it's like basically a bunch of guys with AKs firing at an Apache. They have crashed. You know, Apaches have been lost from that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not very likely, but 30 guys with machine guns firing away and up close, they're going to do damage because aircraft are quite lightly armoured.
Weight of fire will do the job.
Yeah. But obviously the UCM can do their anti-tank shot and that anti-air reaction fire because they've got the machine guns. But the rocket isn't as good as all 5 Scourge guys pulling their shots.
Yeah.
So they're a bit more flexible, but they're a bit less specific. They're not quite the same hammer blow that the Scourge guys get.
Yeah, then if it's the PHR, they're more infantry killers because they have the nice assault rifle, and then they also have a sniper shot that they can take as well, which is
the
quite fun.
anti-material rifle, which can really spoil one guy's day, or it can do a shape charge, which is basically an anti-tank shot, which always damages on a 6. Which can say go through the vision slit and kill the pilot, or just destroy a relatively lightly armoured but crucial system on the vehicle to take it out. Because it's a very powerful rifle that they've got. A bit more range, bit less strength. Everything has its trade-offs. You never get everything in one unit most of the time.
Well, that's the contents of the starter set guys built. That's the sprues all built up. But you guys had some new releases. I want to go through them, okay? Because they are absolutely stunning, and now's as good a time as any for us to get some of them unboxed in front of you guys. So I'm going to start off with the smallest of the kits, actually, and it's the UCM longbow. So if Justin, I'll pass that over to you, and we can start to have a look at that.
Shiny.
So the UCM longbow, that's artillery pieces for the UCM.
It is, yeah. I describe it as a tactical toolbox longbow because you can actually do several things with it. It comes in on a Raven B transport. It can't move when it's on the ground, so it's got to be dropped in.
So that's a Raven B transport. How many does it drop in?
The
Just the
light
one?
dropship's just the one, but you get 2 in the blister. So the other thing we try and do is match up all the blister contents with what they do or need in the game. So if you get 2 of these, you're going to get 2 of the transports. So you never end up with orphan units most of the time. You've always got it's the right multiples. It all goes together. So these guys, the longbows, that's without any cleanup. They just kind of go together.
Just straight out of the box. Yeah.
It's actually, if you look at the turret itself, it's like a giant revolver. That's got a small runner on there to clip off. But if we get one of, I've got 2. Like here's one I made earlier. Couple of built ones. The difference is very small. It's just had the runners cut off.
Yeah, it's just that little bit of flash, and now it's cleaned up nicely.
And those there, it's basically a gigantic revolver. It's got a really big revolver chamber at the back
So
there.
it's a proper metal projectile. Those things are thumping out.
You actually have selectable ammunition with these. You've got 3 different shots you can do. You can do penetrator, which is anti-vehicle, which this is all indirect fire. So as long as you've got the spotter, you can fire from cover, which is quite nice with anything.
And what units can act as a spotter for that?
Scout or any friendly acts as a spotter. But you get an accuracy modifier if it's just any old unit, like a tank. If it's a scout unit, though, there's no accuracy penalty. So with the UCM, that's the Praetorian snipers or the Wolverines.
Yeah.
The Praetorian snipers are particularly nice because you can stick them in a building right at the back, a really tall building.
Yeah.
And they're spotting from the whole face of that
just get
building.
a good line of sight down across the entire city.
Which is really useful. I mean, both of those, this unit and the Praetorians are quite mixed tactically in what you can do with them. But
if I have a dropship coming in and it's starting to take fire from a particular point, there's no reason why that dropship couldn't act as a spotter.
The dropship can
call in artillery to help it out.
Any friendly, it's line of sight from any friendly unit.
Yes.
But it is +2 to hit if it's not a scout doing the spotting.
Yes.
Or if the artillery unit itself can't see the target as well, because obviously it doesn't get any accuracy penalties if it.
So what other kinds of ammunition does it?
So you've got you've got high explosive. Which is good for building demolition. Because it has a blast marker. It's not particularly powerful. It's middle of the road. Powerful-wise, good for killing infantry because blast weapons do a lot of damage to infantry in the open. Good for taking out groups of small vehicles, and also blast weapons. When you shoot directly at a building, you discard the blast marker, but you basically double your demolisher value. And gain demolisher 2 if you don't have demolisher. So they're demolisher 2 against buildings, and buildings have only got armor 6, which isn't very much. So the high explosive round is better than the penetrator against buildings. Which is exactly how it would be in the real world. Penetrator is just going to make a nice punch a hole and not going to explode. Whereas
punch a 6-inch hole through each floor.
Yeah, exactly, which is going to hurt, but not as much as a high explosive round. So you've got that, and thirdly, and I think most powerfully, you've got smart smoke. And the smart smoke round can be used defensively and defensively. You can shoot enemy units with it, which affects their accuracy, and it sticks around for a whole turn. Or you can shoot friendlies. If you shoot friendlies, anything with smoke round it, this is enemy or friendlies, there's an accuracy modifier if they're shooting and an accuracy modifier if they're being shot at. So you shoot the enemy if it's something you don't want to shoot this turn, and their accuracy is going to go down, which is nice. Or you shoot your friendly stuff, in which case they're going to be shot at and it's going to be bad. But with Smart Smoke, you can choose to have it dissipate whenever you want during a friendly activation when it's played on friendly units. So if it's on your tank, you can just go, and it's disappeared now, and now I'm going to shoot. So, early in the turn, maybe you might want to not shoot with your big squad of 6 Gladius heavy tanks. You might want to save them for later for one reason or another. Gladius. So smoke them if they're in the open. With, It is also stacks. If you've got 2 of them hitting, it's better than 1 of them. But it stops there. You can't keep going because otherwise it's going to be like 6s to hit. And there's only so much smoke you can have in the air all at once anyway.
And then with it being set in the future, obviously there are going to be targeting systems that will get past that eventually.
Well, that's part of the Smart Smoke thing. It actually has a thermal element, so it disrupts thermal scanners as well. We try and think about these things. But it's designed to disrupt all kinds of scanners, optical and thermal. So anyways, you can have it dissipate in your turn, so you leave it until those Gladius are going to come up to shoot. Then you have it disappear, then you shoot with the Gladius right at the end of the turn. So that's a really nice, useful feature to have if you don't want to use them offensively. So they're, despite not being mobile, they're actually very flexible units tactically, which is a good thing in Dropzone because you never know what you might need to do late game.
So you can drop them in. Can you deploy? Yeah, you drop them in probably at the back of the table because
Yeah.
I'd imagine they've unlimited range anyway.
They do against buildings, but not against stuff with countermeasures. But they do have a respectable range anyway against things. So you might want to fly them on, say, 12 inches. Don't put them right at the back, but somewhere a bit further forwards. And then they're going to be stuff right at the back of the enemy. Bald edge, you might have trouble hitting that. But everything else, you've pretty much got it covered.
Okay, next up, I want to talk about the Scourge Reavers. So if we can crack them open.
Yep, these are something new again. You always bring the best toys, Dave. Let's see, so we've got 2 little flying bases.
That's because these are flyers.
Oh. Okay.
Right, there's a lot of parts here now, so I want to
So I'll move out
see
the
what
flying
we've got.
bases, the 2 flying stocks, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty of the main components for it.
You got 2 little Hawk widgets there. That's part of the flying base.
Yep.
And I think that, if I shift everything across a little bit, is the rest of it there. What, are these the gun points on them?
Yeah, they're the guns. So you've got the standard hull. That's the standard intruder hull.
Yeah.
Then you've got the new gunship base, which is a very large part. It's actually slightly bigger than the hull itself. There's the 2 weapon mount points underneath there.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the runner to clip off, and that's it really for clean up for these. They just plug on underneath these. We'll show you some built ones in a minute.
Yeah.
But then you have the 4 plasma lancers. Plasma lancers are basically slightly lighter, slightly more pointable versions of the plasma cannon. Slightly less powerful, but you've got 2 of them. And importantly, on the Reaver, you can actually split fire. So you can fire one against one target, one against another. So potentially take out 2 things in one volley, which is good. Scourge-wise, they actually haven't had a gunship yet, and this is their first gunship, which is roving anti-tank that flies around.
Yeah.
Fighters, they come in and come off the board, and they're very tactically flexible, but you can't always rely on them, and they're not always there. Whereas these guys are actually always about. There's another one here. I'll just take both the built ones. So they're very posable, obviously, because the guns will pivot round.
Yeah. So you just have them on the little ball joints in beneath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, you could magnetize those if you wanted to, yeah?
Yeah, you could. You could magnetize them to pivot. To do full ball joints with magnets is a little tricky, but you can do it. Especially with small ball joints like this. The magnets aren't too fussy with exactly where you put things. So, especially if you're using a medium to small magnet, you can do that. Especially having pivot left-right is easy. No problem.
Yeah.
Pivot up, down, and left-right in one, because magnets obviously only work in one plane.
Polarity,
so there's only so much you can do, but they are posable if you want to magnetize them, and for gluing them together, they're nice and posable there too. So they're also a heavy gunship, which means they've got 2 damage points in the game. They do still die very easily to anti-air. Everything in the air does. Even heavy dropships will go down to abuse from anti-air. But these have got a little bit more chance of surviving, which is nice. And they can split their fire, so they're a little bit chunkier than the gunships that the other races have. Again, not much range, like all the Scourge stuff, but nasty when it gets stuck in.
Nice. Next up, we have probably my favourite model from the release, and that is the Sheltari Totem, the Warspire. Get that open up till we see. Now, I am such a huge fan of the design aesthetic of the Sheltaria. I just love the 3-dimensional space of the nature of the design. And I just think that this is so cool. I can imagine this thing just lowering slowly down onto the top of a building and going boom, 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 boom.
And this you don't get a sense of. We've obviously got a built one as well to get in here.
Yeah, but
so there's all the bits.
So it's little 9-piece models, so it should be nice and easy to put together.
Yeah.
So you have your tall sides. Are these the feet section for it?
No, those are the little energy channelers that go on the. They go on the end of those points.
All right, gotcha. So.
At this point, I'm going to pass across the actual built piece so you can see how it actually goes together.
There you go.
So there is the Warspire there.
Going at the top of it.
So what is it, Dave, and what does it do?
Well, the Warspire is it's quite an odd unit really for Dropzone. It's quite an interesting one. It's very tall. If we get we can get the whole thing in the shot there. Let's put an infantry figure next to it so you get an idea how big it is. you know, that's a big thing. The Warspire is pretty huge. It serves two completely remote functions. So first off, its main purpose is to provide shielding for buildings.
Oh, right.
The other thing, in Dropzone, there are actually two types of countermeasures. Active, which all the vehicles pretty much have, and passive. And only really the Shaltari have passive countermeasures. The PHR has one unit with a passive save. It's basically a saving throw that you always get, regardless of whether the enemy.
What is an active countermeasure versus...
Active countermeasures, I mean, the US Army is working on them now. It's something that detects a munition and actively does something to stop it from hitting the target. So you scramble the scanners, you use chaff, you blow it out of the sky with lasers, all sorts of things like that. Passive countermeasures is an all-enveloping energy shield. So it's there always. Doesn't matter if you stand right next to it and shoot it, the energy shield is still there and it's still going to have an effect. It's not as foolproof. The active ones, if you're beyond range, it will stop the munition and that's it. Passive is a saving throw.
Right, gotcha.
So it may get through anyway, and weight of fire will always get through because it won't stop everything. But the passive, this will give a passive countermeasure save to a building when it drops.
So if you have your Shaltari guys in the building, and you drop one of them, that's a good thing.
Oh yeah, 'cause it gives the building a 5-up save, which is fairly significant. It's going to massively increase the chance of that building surviving long enough for the Shaltari infantry inside to find their objectives and escape before the building comes down. Especially those buildings that you're near your board edge with objectives, because those you tend to put small infantry squads in, efficiently find those objectives and get them off the board nice and quick. Which means the enemy is always focused on trying to blow those buildings up. And if you can protect those buildings with this, you can also combo it with the Dream Snare, which boosts the shield to a 4-up save. Which is also very powerful, but you need to have both.
So your building would have a 4+ save.
Yeah, which is very nice, but you need a Dream Snare there, and you need a Warspire there for that to work. The other thing the Warspire can do...
Please tell me it kills shit too.
It can kill stuff too. It can come down, because that shielding of a building is very powerful early game. Late game, not so much, more of the time. But it can also shoot, which gives it a purpose late game, and also means you can use it offensively. So what it does, essentially, this, because it doesn't have any drives or anything, it devotes all its power to weapons. So it can shoot on the turn it dematerialises from a transport, or shoot and then dematerialise into a transport.
Let me see if I have this right. Basically, I can pop this down on the board, give the shielding.
Immediately. You don't have to wait a turn to shoot, because normally you can't shoot on the turn you come out or enter a transport normally.
But after that's on the table, can I move it elsewhere via transports?
Yeah, you can use gates to move it around.
Okay.
Anything from an Eden gate, the medium or bigger, can move one of these.
Okay.
And can it shoot the moment it arrives?
Yep.
Oh!
So it can't move when it's on the ground because it's got no drives. So once it's down and it's shot, it's obviously quite vulnerable because there's no way you can then hide. It's there to be shot at. But it's an energy 12 shot, which is pretty scary.
That'll do some
a railgun is energy 10, plasma cannons are energy 11.
What would you use that against? Just would you use that against a building or against?
Well, against the building, it's overkill. Really, anything above energy 9 is going to damage buildings on a 2-up. Unless it's like a tough building, like a bunker or something, you don't really need really high energy shots to destroy buildings. It's a waste.
So
you want to use them on heavy armor, tanks, things with high armor values. Because you also, if you beat the roll you need to damage a unit by 2 or more, then you do 2 damage points instead of 1. So if it's something with armor 10, which is pretty much as tough as it gets, this is going to be damaging that fairly reasonably, and it can even do double damage, which is pretty powerful. So it also means you use your gates more effectively and more offensively later in the game, because once you've got a couple of Edens quite far ahead on the board, maybe they're not doing that much late game. But this thing, you use one of your ones near the back that have been used to move objectives around, pick this up, drop it right at the back, zap immediately, which is pretty scary.
Just the moment it comes down.
The moment it comes down, which is quite.
That gives you a lot of tactical flexibility there, doesn't it?
It does. It's one of the Shaltari can do quite a few tricksy things that the other races can't
movement
do.
Shenanigans.
Yeah, movement shenanigans, but they do lose out on armour. Generally, the Shaltari, and you do pay a lot of points for units which can die fairly easily if you put them in the wrong place. They can also be beaten in a straight line by the Scourge, although overall the Shaltari are perhaps the fastest because they can redeploy quicker. But there's the Scourge is the racehorse, and the Shaltari is the tricksy little annoyance. Yeah. I like Shaltari mainly because of the design wise. You know, I've kind of, these came from my head completely, and I like the Shaltari, my favourite faction, but everybody has their own.
Yeah, like I said, I'm a big fan. However, this next one,
you've left the best to last. Give
it
it here.
is
I've been waiting to get my hands on this. Give it here.
Okay. This is the PHR Hades. Oh boy! Now this is the one that you can win this. Along with its dropship and a starter army on the XLBS. If you if you become backstage member and comment on that video, you could be in with a chance of winning that. This kit is just stunning, absolutely stunning. And this is Dave, where you have really got the bug for big kits now, for big models.
No, I took one look at this thing when I saw it online and just went, right, my bank account hates war games, but I love them.
It's just stunning.
So, absolutely cracking.
So you have the main fuselage, or the main hull there. You have the tail. It's got this Scorpion-esque kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
And then the legs, and the legs are all on kind of ball joints. So there's some posability options here.
Yeah, it's very posable, the Hades. You can, because all the feet are on ball joints and all the legs are on ball joints. The tail is fully articulated, moves as well. We'll show you on the magnetised one when we've seen all the parts.
That is a lot of bits.
It's a lot of bits. Not a lot of clean up.
Yeah, but it's very, very clean. And do you know what? It doesn't look like it. It looks like a piece of piss to put together. I'm not panicking looking at that.
Yeah, it looks like I can put it together, and we all know how bad I am sometimes.
There are some key points though that you can magnetize on this though, Dave. Can you point them out where the magnetization options are? For this?
You've got the legs are, to be honest, quite hard to magnetize because they're on big ball joints, which makes them nicely posable. But again, that's ball joints and magnets don't go together too well.
Yeah.
And there's nothing that can really be done about that, short of doing two joints, and then it gets very fiddly, and nobody wants that.
But the tops of the legs are the actual points where the
tops of the legs though. This is where you get magnetizing. I'll show you on the bits, and then I'll show you on the assembled one. So on here, there's the standard PHR mount point that all PHR ground units share, apart from the really small stuff like the Janus. But those, you can magnetize those, and it's exactly the same as all the walkers. So same stuff applies. If you want it magnetised in so it fits, you have to pose the legs so it corresponds with the mount points underneath the Poseidon, which we'll show you in a minute, because I've got a posed one that I've assembled, and fits under a Poseidon one that I've also assembled.
You see, if I was building that to try and magnetise it to a Poseidon, I would get my Poseidon first, get the magnets onto it, put the magnets into the leg, and then set them onto the magnetic points before trying to connect the body to it, because then you know you're in the right position.
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, I think I blue tacked mine on and then glued the hull on to the ball joints, and then you know it's going to fit. It's quite straightforward to do that.
Yeah.
All the other stuff, though, I mean, the little arms at the front, again, they're on ball joints and they're very small, so
that's the little twin miniguns.
The rest, though, the tail especially, you've got a hinge point there. That just goes together quite nicely without any clean up whatsoever on there.
So just a magnet.
Yeah, one or two magnets in here, inside that ball joint, one there and one inside here. You can just drill away from the back and just slot a magnet in. Dremels or any of those small hobby drills work really well for this. Then the tail is very straightforward. You just got a big ball joint there, nice big magnet in there, does the trick. That's got a small runner, so it won't go all the way in without being clipped off, but that's straightforward. And then again, you've got a little pivot point here. So simple, two magnets in there, and you're away, really, with that. And that just rocks in there. And then that will just magnetise into the back. So that turret will fold flat. So if we show you a built one, there's it underneath the Poseidon. That's all magnetised on there. So your Poseidon just clips off. Then you have your 6 legs there. The turret, this was actually very hard to design this, so that this would all flow in. This goes in between the nano machine hive on the back. But then this is all magnetised up, so this can just fold out.
That is so sweet. No, you've just uttered the words nano machine hive. Oh, tell me more about that. What is a nano machine hive?
The nano machine hive, they come out of all these big vents on the back.
Nano
machines can be used to repair friendly units, including itself. which is useful.
Yeah.
But it's also an indirect fire offensive weapon with a blast marker, so you can really mess up stuff. It's not got a huge amount of range, but it can kill tanks. It basically, all those nanomachines get in there and just tear all the wires to bits on the inside.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah.
Just really, you know, just damage stuff.
I love the idea of this thing repairing itself, because I've had a quick look at the profile. If I remember it, it's got something like 8 damage points.
It's got 8 damage points, yeah, which is terrifying.
Ridiculously high. If you're going to kill this thing, you're going to have to go for it.
Yeah, you need to mean it. I mean, it's a lot of points wrapped up in one unit. You know, it's always a downside.
Now, we talked about the posability of the legs because of the ball joints.
Here you got a more posed one that I've built. This one I've glued the legs in. Again, the tail. This tail's not magnetised. I've just got it mechanically there. Yeah. It holds its position okay without magnets, but if you turn it upside down, the turret will drop out because it's not. It's not.
So that's just mechanically held on. So it's just. By just slotting it together.
Just through virtue of being a very precise fit, it will stay together like that anyway. You know, if you was to sort of bang the table, it would probably drop down, but this is without paint. Once you've got a layer of paint on, it will be as tight to fit.
Yeah.
So you know, we always think about that as well when designing things. But so you don't really need to use magnets to get that rear tail posable if you don't want to. It'll pose okay without magnets, but it's got it rearing up here in this pose. It's a little bit more dynamic on there. But I mean, the other thing, the nanomachine hive isn't the only thing this bad boy's armed with. It's got the heavy rail repeater on the back. Yep. Which is, now it takes the crown from the Shaltari particle cannon as the most powerful weapon in the game. Yeah. Not got energy 13 though, it's only energy 12. The particle cannon's energy 13. Yeah. Also, the particle cannon's got an infinite range, which is pretty scary as well. Yeah. But this has 3 shots. And the particle cannon's only got 1. Yeah. So it's very scary. You can do raking as well, so you can shoot 3 different targets as long as they're close to each other. So you just take out a whole row of tanks. Yeah. Because it's essentially a massive version of what the PHR Phobos anti-air walker carries. But it's not anti-air because it's bloody massive, and it's basically a huge version of a rapid-fire railgun of death. Yeah. It's got a lot of range because that barrel length is ridiculous. If you put a UCM tank next to it, you know, that is a very, very long barrel indeed. And, yeah, well, it's got a lot of range and it's got a lot of punch.
Let's have a quick look at an infantry base just standing beside it.
I know, that just...
They're absolutely tiny.
The minute you add infantry to this game just pops to life, you know. Again, you know, you can stick a car beside it. It's just...
Yeah, we'll put a little car there. Yeah. In the back.
It's like, it just like bing.
It's big. The Hades is really big. Yeah. You've also got the 2 miniguns at the front, which are a higher caliber than the usual PHR miniguns. All right. Yeah. So these are good for light vehicles, things like Wolverines and Prowlers and other. Yeah, or that. You know, any lightly armored vehicles, this will tear those to pieces because it's got 3 shots apiece. It can hurt buildings not particularly well, but they're useful for picking off light vehicles when you don't want to use this thing to kill.
Yeah, to kill a fly.
Use that to kill a Wolverine is overkill, so you've got the little guns to just pick off light stuff as well. So it can hold its own. Downside is no anti-air on this thing though, so you're going to need some anti-air protection, otherwise it might get bombed.
Around it, right, okay.
Different races will kill this in different ways. The Scourge will have to close, but the Scourge have got very powerful weapons, so they can double damage a lot. So those 8 damage points will go down against Scourge when they get close. UCM can bombard it from reasonable range. They've got a lot of railgun firepower. Just massed power will eventually take it down.
Or their command vehicle as well, if it's
you can orbital strike it. Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad way of killing it. It's quite visible, so getting line of sight to this thing might not be too much of a problem. Yeah. Shaltari, Ocelots, particle cannons, great, really good way of killing this thing. If not, then you probably want to just use your speed and manoeuvrability to avoid it.
Yeah, just try and take it out of the game.
Don't even try. Just steer clear of the thing. Yeah, because this thing doesn't have a huge amount of speed. Nothing in the PHR list apart from the Strike Walkers have much speed. So you can use that to your advantage. But in a one-on-one fight, this thing is going to blow War Striders to pieces. Yeah, it's going to blow anything the Shaltari have to offer to pieces quite easily. But then it's huge, and it's over 200 points for 1 unit. So there's never get everything in 1 unit, but
for those people who were looking for a big centerpiece to the PHR army, they now have it.
Oh yeah. I mean, you can build your whole list around this thing. You put this right in the middle and just bring it.
Well, that's the releases to date. now's the part of the show I've especially been looking forward to, and that's talking about where next. So we're going to talk a little bit about what's going to be happening actually next year.
Yep.
So it's we've got these were being shown at Gen Con, and the moment we saw the photographs, that was why we went to the airport and captured Dave, because we thought we can't let him talk about that over there and not come and talk to us about this. So let me put that out of the way. This little collection here is the beginnings of the brand new faction. This is the Resistance. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about the backstory. I was given an idea of the backstory in the last Weekender, I believe. I was even talking about the backstory. Obviously, the Scourge have taken over Earth and some of the other kind of home planets. We're now 200 years later, and there's a kind of like an underground resistance that still exists on these planets and on Earth. So what we actually hear, a lot of us kind of had an idea that there was a new faction on the way, and it's been such a pleasant surprise to actually find out that it's the Resistance themselves. So if you're getting into the starter set, which by this stage, if you're like me, you're drooling over it and getting ready to it, for any of you guys that are going to pick the UCM side of it, this could be quite interesting for you guys as well, because there's talk of being able to ally with the Resistance and things like that. So Dave, what can you tell us about the background to these guys?
Hey, well,
now, first, we're talking. These aren't going to release until next year, and this is only a small.
This is
kind
just
of
a small
teaser.
selection of what we were working on, and we had. There was we were doing a lot of teaser stuff before Gen Con. We're going to be making a big announcement, and a lot of our existing players just made the assumption.
Yeah, they latched on to the idea. Must be a new faction. Oh my God, they're coming, they're coming, they're coming.
See, these things take a lot of time, and I work on stuff a long way ahead of when they're announced or shown off.
Yeah.
We were thinking, well, why not show people some models from the new faction? They know we're working on them then, and there's been a lot of speculation for a long time about what this new faction was going to be, and there's a lot of talk on the forum about it. I mean, in the end, we're like, right, let's just show some models, end the speculation. The Resistance is the new faction. Talk a little bit about how they're going to work. But as I say, there is still a lot more work for me to do in the studio to get these finished. This is only a few of the kits we've got here to show off.
So background to the Resistance, right? These guys are obviously the descendants of the people that were on those planets at the point that they were invaded by the Scourge. They've been through hell, Dave. They really have.
They've had 200 years of hell, pretty much.
Running, hiding, fighting when they can.
Running, hiding, fighting when they can, scrounging weapons. There's the Scourge essentially concentrate on all the best parts of the planets, where all the resources are, where the cities are. Because the Scourge, they don't demolish a city when they attack a planet. They keep that city and they use it, because why not? A lot of time and investment has been put into building that city. So
and that's time and investment. They don't have to put into building another.
Why flatten it if you can use it? So all the human cities are mostly still intact if they're of any use to the Scourge. Some areas, especially like the entertainment districts and stuff, they're just like, whatever, and it's rotted. And that's where all the overgrown buildings and stuff in the cities are. That's the areas of cities that the Scourge have decided just isn't worth their time. So they've just let it rot. Some parts are still working, because the Scourge absorb hosts as well. So human bodies, a city is designed for human-sized people. So all the door handles, silly things like that, they're all designed for human-shaped Scourge hosts. So it's ready-made for them, effectively. Kind of like a sort of caddisfly almost. They kind of get in there
because the Scourge, when they originally arrived, were kind of almost a bit lizard-like, weren't they? They had
it was a previous set of hosts from another race that the Scourge had already absorbed,
But now hosts, at this stage, it's what you're battling against with the Scourge are the humans from 200 years ago or 150 years ago.
Because the Scourge, when the Scourge take a host, it's a very unpleasant experience for the host itself. The host, they don't live forever. The Scourge will die, but the Scourge, while the Scourge takes a host, it extends the lifespan of the host by several hundred years. But they're not immortal. And when the host, in it, taking a host, if you're taken, it's weeks and weeks of incredible pain and suffering before the Scourge gains full control of your body. So that's very unpleasant. And you can imagine like host hives where there's thousands of people screaming in torment as the whole
just
Scourge
strapped down to Scourge medical tables.
Exactly,
You're unnerving me, Dave. You're unnerving me.
That's very unpleasant. But even once you've been fully controlled by the Scourge, the original host consciousness is still there the whole time, but it can't do anything. So you've had hundreds of years of not having control of your own body. So when the Scourge starts to die, because the Scourge itself will start to die before the host. The host's racked psyche will start to come to the fore again as the Scourge loses control of the host. And the host becomes more and more erratic, and there's other side effects, like they can't produce pigment anymore, so they go white and they sweat profusely, a bit like we are in here. It's a hot studio.
It's a hot studio today.
So they sweat profusely, they get massively thirsty to the point where they just drink the blood of fallen. So they get really, really bad over time, and that's what the Lizard Warriors were when the Scourge first invaded. They were at the end of they were at the end of their life cycle. So they desperately needed new hosts because the old hosts were all dying, and now let's take a new planet with a bunch of ready-made hosts. But these guys are the ones who escaped one way or another, and they live in the swamps, in the mountainous regions, in all the areas of the planet that Scourge aren't all that interested in. And they've managed to hide to a certain extent and get away with some equipment. Obviously, most of the people are all gone, dead, or taken over. So there's a lot of ex-civilian kit lying around. So these ones here I'm showing off are all the technicals and the heavy technicals, which is basically civilian vehicles that the Resistance have taken and modded. So
well, if we can show some of the technicals under the camera.
So this kit, we've actually got 6 different vehicle designs. This makes the Resistance a lot of work to design because there's a lot of variants here. They're not standard pattern military grade. They're all sorts of different things. So
were these kind of civilian cars and things like that at a point?
Well, it looks like a mixture of old pickup trucks, sedan cars and stuff.
Yeah, they have an Art Deco aesthetic because that goes very much with the architectural style that is in the game, especially used before the Scourge invasion. It was quite a decadent time, quite a sort of time of confidence. Think of America before the Great Depression, and that's kind of where you are in terms of like the aesthetic, and there's lots of lavish parties, and it's a very peaceful society with a lot of money to spend because fusion is there, so energy's not a problem, so humans can have time to enjoy themselves. So
details on these are absolutely beautiful. Whoa, Dave, you've even detailed underneath.
Oh yeah. These
you've done the chassis.
There's like drive shaft, rear differential, suspension, everything. I've done a lot of research into modern cars. I mean, there's obviously a lot of similarity and sameness with these and modern vehicles, but a car, I figured a car is quite a simple machine, really, and in 500, 700 years' time, how much different, if cars exist then, are they likely to be? I mean, the power source might be different, but the basic mechanics of a car is going to be
the basic mechanical principle of what makes it go that way
is going to be fairly unchanged. It's a vehicle, it's got 4 wheels, it's got the doors, it's got space to store things in the back, it's not too large, very efficient design, a car. There's, hover cars are nice, but that's a lot of energy just to make something move when it could just move on wheels.
It's a lot of specialised tech and resources to actually keep the thing flying.
For non-military civilian purposes like these things, I mean, aesthetics for these people were more important anyway. So you've got ones like this, which is very kind of 1920s inspired, kind of staff car almost.
I love it.
But they're very aesthetic designs because they don't really need to worry about the practicalities anymore. They can focus on having their car look cool. So,
do you know what? I'm when these come out, Dave, I've got to be honest. I'm tempted to try and get a hold of these, just to paint them up without the weapons and things like that to put onto my gaming table to add to that sense of scale. So that whenever my tanks and stuff like that roll past these, they'd be wrecked and decaying. But when they're going past, it just adds to that sense of scale of all the tanks and stuff, and make it look even more.
Sense of how big the real military stuff is, because these cars as well. The striking thing is actually how big a person is when they're stood in the back of a pickup truck. It's one of those things that initially, when I looked at it, I was kind of like, that doesn't quite seem right. But it is actually. Pickup trucks, the back isn't all that big for a normal size pickup, and when you've got a guy in armour, full kit with a big rocket launcher on a pad, it's quite large for a small pickup. Cabs are very efficiently designed. You can fit a couple of guys in the front. But there's So obviously on the back here we've got all the individual figures. Say in the kit you might get 6 rocket launchers, 6 different tanks, 6 different hulls, 6 different rockets. They're all rocket launchers in the game. They all have the same roles, but every single one is different design-wise. I don't know if I've actually picked out all 6 different ones here. Probably not. Those 2 at the back have got guns. But I've just grabbed a few at random.
There's one there with a blast shield.
Oh yeah, that one's got a blast shield. Yeah, I mean they're all kind of individually bodged up pretty much. As and when they've been able to get various ex-military kit or even some homemade weapons.
That gives you loads of room for mix and match then. So if you bought multiple sets, you just mix them all up.
You've got 36 different vehicles there, and you can have every single one different, which is something I wanted to focus on with these because they're not standard pattern military gear.
Yeah, basically everybody's getting their own bit of scrap metal to bolt onto their car.
Yeah, and it's happening in places like Libya at the moment, or happened in Libya. I actually looked at a lot of what was being done out there. So if we move on to the heavy technicals.
Yep. These are stunning.
We'll look at the rocket launcher ones.
Yeah.
I'll try and get the 3 different hulls together for these. So there's that one there. And then we're looking for that rocket pod with that hull. There we go. So there you've got the 3 heavy technicals. These are obviously trucks rather than cars. A little bigger. But again, these are all... Well, I'm calling them Katyushas for now, because they're like Russian Katyushas from World War II.
Yeah.
We don't have names for every single unit here at the moment, but we'll call them Katyushas for now.
Yeah.
So this one's got a sort of organ gun arrangement, very homemade. This one has helicopter gunship rocket pods on it, which has actually been done in Libya. You see pictures of them, like literally tied to the back of Toyota pickup trucks.
Yeah.
And that's what we've got here, but there's 4 of them. There's even little iron girders that they're attached to underneath with little I-beams and everything. They've all been custom built. But for this kit, you'd get, say, 3 hulls, and they're all different, and 3 plows on the front, all different, and 3 weapons, all different. So that's...
Also, the plows are separate, so you can start to... All right, you can mix and match away there as well.
27 different vehicles from that one blister, potentially, and that's just these ones. So you've got the rocket launcher ones, but you've also got the anti-air ones, with these different anti-air quad guns. There you've got the slightly more sci-fi looking one. And you've got, if I just grab them out from this pile, that one there. That was a very sci-fi looking anti-air gun. The ammo boxes on the side. That one more traditional looking. Essentially, I mean, the military before the Scourge invasion were quite kind of stolid, I suppose. They didn't really have anything to fight apart from Shaltari tribes because they've had long relations with the Shaltari and plenty of wars. So there needed to be military kit. But the bulk of the army had basically been at peace for a long time. So there's various different patterns of gear and most of it stays in service for a long time. And so there are different sorts of weapons that they've been able to
there was no longer an arms race to actually advance and unify everything.
Which is what the UCM is very much in an arms race, and they all have very uniform kit because it's all new and it's all just been developed and just hit the front line.
Yeah.
So this, you've got those and you've got the flamethrower ones too.
Flamethrowers.
Flamethrowers, that one's got a little twin flamethrower cone. Now there's different, these 2 are quite similar, but again they're different armour plating bolted onto them.
Yeah.
Now it all gives you an idea of the character of this race. They won't just have ex-civilian kit. They'll also have some ex-military stuff that survived as well. It didn't all get destroyed in the invasion, so they do have some tanks. Not very many.
And obviously the game is called Dropzone Commander, and it's about moving troops. There are troop carriers and stuff like that planned for this as well. Then.
I mean, the ordinary stuff like the technicals and the cars and things will have to get onto the battlefield in other ways. You're not going to use a high-tech aerial dropship to drop in an improvised truck. It's just not going to happen. But the military stuff will have dropships compatible with them. They won't have heavies because they're just too big a target. They're just not going to have survived. Anything that large that flies is going to have been taken out long ago.
It'll either have been put up in the air while the Scourge were invading to defend, or taken out along the way.
Well, we're going to talk a lot more about that. And if you'd like to see that and hear more about the Resistance, the rules, and some of the other models and ships that's on the way, and being with a chance of winning a PHR starter set, along with a Hades and a Poseidon, and we have a free download to give away to backstagers that's Dropzone Commander connected, you will want to check out XLBS. Other than that, enjoy the rest of your Saturday, and thank you very much for joining us, and thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see you in XLBS. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.